The crypto markets are going down hard, and this actually presents an amazing entry opportunity to start investing in the highest quality of project. And while the crypto markets are going down, the NFT market is starting to explode, and money is really just rotating from one place to another. And that's why I believe in 2022 in January and February is going to be the month of NFTs. Here are gonna be 3 projects you gotta keep on your radar, especially if you wanna get into these projects while they're still cheap. The first project that we're gonna be talking about is Illuvium. Now, Illuvium is one of those projects where the team is actually investing in AAA quality developers to actually create one of the best games in the NFT and crypto space for 2022. So this isn't like, just a couple indie developers putting something together. This is actually like a full-scale, full-on AAA team trying to build something world-class. So the game is basically a strategy game. It's kind of like taking Pokemon combined with League of Legends, teamfight tactics, where you kind of set up your board, you put your monsters down, and they fight each other, and you see who wins. AAA graphics with a format that has already proven to be successful. So there are 2 ways you can invest into this project, right? The first one is just simply buying the coin Illuvium. If you go on coin market cap, right, you can see that it exploded in 2021. There's like this huge peak over here in December. And then obviously, because all crypto in general kind of went into a little bit of a bear, now the price is really cheap. So when you think about the risk to reward ratio, right now you can get a coin for like $1,000, whereas it used to be almost $2,000. So it's like 50% off from its all-time high. So if crypto gaming becomes more popular, especially in 2022, it's actually a great entry point because it literally dropped 50%. So the risk to reward ratio is a little better than it was like a month ago. And because this is actually a AAA game that people are really excited about, well, it has a really strong narrative and fundamentals, and the presentation is really good. So investing in the coin is one aspect of it, but I really want to touch on another opportunity within Illuvium, and that is investing in land. So if you go into the Illuvium website, you go to exchange, you go to land, right now it says coming soon, right? So there's not much information when you go on the website itself. You have to actually dig a little deeper into the governance, and this is just like where the team is, actively building with the community and giving out proposal and like kind of feeling out what they should do so the community can give them feedback. And you have to kind of read through all this like a little bit nerdy stuff, but I'll go ahead and give you the quick summary so you don't have to go through all this pain of reading this like long text. So essentially the game is gonna be like this 3D game, and it's like Pokemon combined with League of Legends, right? But there's also gonna be a mini game within the game where it's kind of like you do things on the piece of land to get resources. And so what you can actually do with that land is still to be determined, but a lot of times in the NFT space, in the crypto space, games create pieces of land so they can raise money, and then somehow that piece of land will be utilized in the real game by having a place for you to like own some land and create resources to use in your game. And so that's why a lot of people buy the land, because it gives them an edge within a game. So the details of the land, they're gonna be 100,000 pieces of land for the entire Illuvium game. Sometime in Q1 in 2022, this is why you gotta keep it on your radar. No official date is announced. They're gonna be selling 10,000 pieces of land, and there's gonna be different rarities from tier 1 to tier 5, and there's gonna be different price points depending on how rare your land is. Obviously, the more rare it is, the more resources it will provide you in the future. It's gonna be more expensive, right? And so let's talk about pricing. All prices for land are subject to change. Nothing is like totally official. These are just proposals that the team put out. So the cheapest piece of land that you're gonna be able to get is 0.5 ETH. The next one is 1.5. The next is 5, then 20, and then the final one, which is gonna be a silent auction where the whales basically just bid up the price and they'll buy it for like a crazy amount. So the price points, but what makes these land actually valuable? Well, first of all, because there's such a high demand for Illuvium and these lands, my guess is that when they put out the land, it's just gonna instantly sell out. So they have a Dutch auction, meaning that there's a certain price that it starts at, let's say it's 0.5, and then over time, the price will keep decreasing until somebody actually wants to buy it. And that's great for Illuvium because they're basically maximizing the amount of money they can get per land, and they're really leveraging their hype. So my guess is that nobody's gonna wait for the Dutch auction to like drop, and people are just gonna straight up buy it. That's my guess, I could be wrong. When this happens, because demand is so high, I think if you buy a piece of land in the beginning and you hold it over time, the chances of the land actually increasing in value is pretty good because you're buying it for the cheapest price that you can get possible when it first comes out. And then if the game has a good narrative and the game is looking good and people are loving the alpha and the beta that they try out, the piece of land is going to increase in value because more and more people are going to realize that, oh, this is a game that's actually going to make it. Even if the game doesn't make it, you can also trade based on that narrative. If people believe that the land or the game will make it, then the price is gonna increase, and you can just flip it if you want. Or if you really believe in the game long term, you can just hold it out. Here's my personal take on, personally for me, why I'm gonna be looking into buying some land. Well, first of all, what the land does and what they say in the white papers and all these documentations doesn't necessarily matter because it's all subject to change. Think about it like a blockchain team who's creating a game. They're literally just making this up as they go, and they're just creating propositions that sound good to to their community. What they actually do and how the economics work out when the game actually comes out, nobody actually really knows. When you are buying a piece of land, don't look so closely on the fine details of like, oh, you're gonna get 5% revenue or of whatever this is. Just think about the narrative that they're telling, whether or not the game will be successful in the long term, because if the game is successful and the team has that long-term vision, they'll find a way to make these lands valuable. Otherwise, they're gonna be burning all their users and then the users gonna walk away. When I look at this kind of investment, I don't look at the specs of what that land is. I don't care what the revenue share is because that's subject to change. The only thing I really look at is the team. How many employees do they have? Who are the founders? Are they trying to do a rug pull? Or are they committed for the long term and trying to build like an actual AAA game and revolutionize the NFT and blockchain space? And I feel like they actually are looking into that long-term vision, and I believe that however things play out, they will figure out a way to increase the value of this land. And of course, if you do invest into this project, it's not financial advice, but it's very speculative, right? There's no guarantee the land is gonna go up. It's just, do you believe in a team and do you believe that the narrative and hype for this particular game is going to go up in 2022? So the next project that we're gonna be looking at is SupDucks, and this is gonna be a picture profile project. You could think of it like an IP brand, something like a Hello Kitty, but for its own specific niche. So if you go on OpenSea right now, the price of a SupDuck is gonna be 1.09 ETH. That's about like 4K-ish. The art is actually kind of interesting. So the founder of this is Frankie9s. He actually helped Gary Vee do some of the artwork for VeeFriends. So this guy's been in crypto for a while. I know that this particular project has a lot of support from the crypto community. Now, when you look at the aesthetics alone, it's not gonna appeal to everybody. For some people, they think it's cool, it's simple, it kind of fits that like streetwear kind of vibe. For other people, they may not like it. It's all subject to taste. So what makes this project so special? Well, first of all, so this guy, Frankie9s, he has a YouTube channel. It's Frankie9s, he got 60K subs, and he's been making like YouTube videos about SupDucks for a long time. Like basically just documenting his journey of like building out this brand. So now a lot of projects, they're anonymous. You don't even know who they are, you don't know what they look like, and they can disappear with your money and you can never do anything about it. But for this particular guy, he's literally going live streaming, you know, like every week or every other week, talking about SupDucks, talking about the future, talking about what he wants to do. And it's like, you have to give someone a lot of props because they're really risking out their reputation on the line to build this brand. And it's very unlikely they're gonna do a rug pull, because it's like, if they're committed to doing this like podcast every single week to tell you their plans, and you can see like week by week the changes that are happening in the project, that's a really big plus. But just because someone is building doesn't mean they're gonna be successful. But the fact that they're building honestly is a big plus in my book. Now, the other thing that makes it really unique is that they have this token called Vote. If you hold the ducks, you get votes every day. So anybody can have a token. And I actually looked into this. It's very easy to create a token. It's very easy to have an NFT and have tokens be dropped to that NFT every single day. But the hard part is making the token valuable. That's really where the magic comes. For SupDucks in particular, they basically created a shop. You can buy these like gummy worms, these ice creams, and you can feed them to your frog. And so King Frogs is like another subset of SupDucks. They're all like related in the same ecosystem. So everybody who had a SupDuck gets a free frog, and then with the free frogs, you can sell it, or you can feed your frog and then you can turn it into like a megatoad, or I'm sure there's like a lot of game mechanics in it. My point is that instead of just having a token and being like, oh, you get passive income every single day, it's like, okay, how are we actually making these tokens valuable so that it's actually worth something, so that when people hold this duck, they feel like they're earning passive income. They'll never advertise these tokens as passive income because there's a lot of legality to making that true. But the tokens can be used to create more NFTs and special NFTs like these megatoads, which I'm sure like a lot of people like and is actually kind of cool. And then you can sell it for Ethereum, right? Like these toads right here are going for 0.69, and that's like a few $1,000s. They are a team that's, you know, out there in the public, really trying to make a difference in the NFT space, trying to innovate in the space and really work hard to bring value to their token versus just putting out a token and like being lazy about it. And so that's why I think it's something you should put on your radar if you are interested. Lastly, let's look at who's actually buying this. So right now I'm using Nansen, which is a paid analytics platform for NFTs. So if you look at the unique holders since August, their unique holders have been increasing, right? Which is good. How you want to think about it is if a project is going to increase in value, typically once everybody knows who they are and they buy or don't buy, you have a certain amount of people, right? So let's say when they came out, everybody knows who they are. They got like 2,000 people who bought. The only way, or one of the only ways to really increase the value of the NFT, if you get new people who are coming into the crypto space to be interested in your project, because the people who already saw it and didn't buy, they're not interested. So they have to expand their market, right? And as you can see, they've been slowly, or not really slowly, but they've been steadily increasing the value or increasing the number of unique addresses holding a SupDuck, meaning that they can increase their brand awareness over time, which potentially can increase the value of that specific NFT. And if we look at the price of an actual SupDuck, when they came out, it was okay, and then it became super hot in September, and then now the price is dying down, which most NFTs in general started dying down around this time anyway. So if you do invest in this project, know that you're getting it at a relatively cheap price compared to where it was at a couple months ago. But if you do buy it, you have to understand the narrative of what is going to happen in the next, let's say 3 months, 6 months, 1 year for this price to increase, right? And so you got to do your own research to understand or believe how successful this project can be. But if you did believe in it, this would be technically a good entry point. But always understand where you enter and where you plan to exit, or if you plan to hold for a long time because you believe in it. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, and depending on your strategy will also depend on your success. So the next project that we're going to be talking about is really for the big brains out here. So SolarBots is going to be the next project I'm going to be talking about. And why I say it's for the big brains is because if you go on their website, solarbots.io, it's not very easy to understand what this game is. Most people who are going to be looking at this, they're going to be like, what is this? It's very confusing when you read this lore and then you read what these are, and it's kind of hard to understand what exactly do you get if you go on their OpenSea and you buy these things. And so let me go ahead and explain to you what it is, why people support it so much, and why it can have a lot of potential. How I first found this project, it was actually just being in the CyberKongz, Wall Street Kongs group. And a lot of people were talking about this. A lot of people are invested into this. And if you look at the advisors, you got Coco Bear there, which is an NFT legend at this point. Owl, who is, I believe, the co-founder of Yield Guild Game. And I mean, if you look through all these people, there's an all-star advisor cast. At first, I did not understand what this is. When I was talking in the Discord group, I didn't get it. And then I just did a little more research into it. If we look at the white paper, which is extremely long and kind of maybe too detailed. So the details of the game, there's going to be a tank, healer, 2 damage dealers, right? So originally when this project minted, you're basically buying a set of NFTs. And so that's why you see all these different type of NFTs, because you're buying a set of them. Buying a tank, a healer, an attacker, and it comes in a set. And then when you buy that, you can actually sell each one individually on OpenSea. So looking at the project from the surface level, right? Personally for me, when it comes to the pixel art, I think it's actually pretty good. I could feel there's a lot of soul in the art, if you know what I mean. It doesn't look like you could hire someone on Fiverr to put these arts together. Second is the team. I don't know who these founders are. I think they're relatively unknown. They don't have that many Twitter followers, but team of advisors is actually very impressive. So the fact that they got all these top tier advisors to be a part of their project probably means that they are in it for the long term, and they probably are very capable of putting out a good game. So when I read through the lore of this game, what really caught my attention was that it reminded me of Nier Automata, and maybe they got inspiration from that game. It's kind of like a game where these are androids or robots who are looking for the meaning of life, their purpose for life, even though they're artificial intelligence. It's an interesting concept to explore, where if you are an artificial intelligence, what is the purpose of life? Is it your purpose is created by your creator, or can you define your own purpose? It's not for everybody, to be honest, right? It's not for everybody. For a niche audience who kind of cares about that stuff, or tying that into human nature of what's the meaning of human life. That dynamic's really interesting, because when we're looking at robots, we can have a certain opinion on meaning of life, but then when we tie it to ourselves, it's very difficult to answer. Just from a storytelling perspective, I know that's very hard to do, and I can see that they're kind of going for that. And I feel because of the story, because of the art, because of the team, I'm pretty confident that they can carve their own niche audience. And I feel that's kind of the future of NFTs in 2022, where there's gonna be so many projects coming out. Some of them are gonna hit mainstream, let's say Big Time and Illuvium. Some of them are gonna be more niche for a specific audience of, let's say 5,000 people. But if you have 5,000 people supporting your project, that's a huge success in the NFT space anyways, right? That's why I really like people that can define their niche, carve it out, and be the best at what they do. Because if you're the best at what you do, then you don't really have to worry about your competition. And so that's why I feel the sentiment or the story behind why potentially these characters or this project might be a success is because they carve out their own niche. They don't have to compete with all the big guys. They can kind of do their own thing, tell their own story, and find a market for that. So that's gonna be it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.